Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around doing something in the world. This week, we're back with my guest, Samir Abbass, who is the owner and CEO of Real Egypt and Real Sudan Tours. He is a well-known Egyptologist when he's done so many interviews on Nile TV, radio programs. He's an entrepreneur. He's an agricultural scientist. He's a former basketball player with the Egyptian National League. He is truly a Renaissance man. So I hope you enjoyed part one of the conversation. And let's get right back to it with Samir. Okay, so Samir, I always like to ask my guests something that's a little less business, less, professionally focused. And I always want to get a sense of who you are outside of work. And so tell us what you are listening to these days.
Okay, so I like music. And I don't like to classify music into classical, modern, African, Western, Egyptian, Arabs. No, it's only the music I like and the music I don't like.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So that's how I pick my music, and when I say music, I refer to some songs as well. And I like some of the Nubian music.
Okay.
Sudanese, Upper Egyptian, classical, some modern Europeans, but something which is with the rhythm, that's which is my ear well like to hear.
Okay.
I like cooking, and that's the time which is normally I listen for music.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're a cook. You like to cook.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in cooking is, in our world today, we have, there is limitations. There is lots of limitation, and to be innovative is not easy to make it to be innovative every day. So
Yes.
when you cook, you have a chance with every dish, with every meal, to make something unique and something different as an exercise for your mind and your soul to be innovative.
Okay.
And
that's true. That's very true. Yeah.
Because otherwise, to be innovative in work, to be innovative in talking with people, there is some limitations. You cannot control all of the factors. But once you're in the kitchen or in the market, you have a control over all of your innovation and elements, and you can create every time a different thing. And that's why when I cook, normally I don't cook from a recipe. No.
Okay.
I just addition my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I often do that as well. And in my life, I've just watched a lot of cooking shows in the background. So you have a sense of what works. But yeah, you're right. I realized that. It's like, yeah, cooking is a creative exercise.
Apart from that, I like watching movies in my free time.
Okay.
Which is not happens a lot, and that's why I became very selective with the movies.
Okay.
I have to get a very good recommendations. I have to research, and I really enjoy the very, very good movies, which is one of the very brilliant movies which I recommend for people to watch, which I watched recently, 100 Feet Journey.
100 Feet Journey. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
It talks about the clash between different culture. It talks about how people look at each other. It talks about how people coming from different backgrounds, opposite backgrounds, they were hating and fighting and in clashes with each other. They managed to live together with harmony.
Wow, which is a wonderful summary of what we are doing.
Yeah. So in documentaries as well, sometimes if I don't have time to read a history book about something, I prefer to have a documentary as something like visual as well, but trusted one. I need also to look at the reviews. And so I can do that while doing some exercise, and so I can do things at the same time. Right. And now with the master, I have to read at least 50 pages every day with my work and with the language classes, the Spanish language classes. That's a good new challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. Wow. Well, those are great recommendations. Again, show notes, listeners. Okay. Wow. Wonderful. So, in terms of where you think academically and message-wise, where do you think the next phase? I mean, you differentiate yourself from other tour operators and other providers of services in Egypt. Do you think that there's becoming to be, particularly after the Arab Spring and with just different uprisings in Africa, are you seeing that the African of Egypt is starting to emerge? And where do you see potentially that going, if it's going anywhere at all?
So that's like two questions about the African rule in Egypt emerging, and about like how I see myself and what I'm doing and how I can evolve my business or my work, evolve with that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult question, but I will try to
Okay.
characterize it, so I can answer it properly, because there's different factors controlling that. One of
Sure.
the very interesting factors, which is I don't like, that most of the governments in Egypt in modern times, they don't realize that they come from an African background, and they don't realize that Egypt is an African country.
Yes.
I tell you another interesting story. I would have one of my podcasts and one of my interview in the Egyptian national TV. I have two interviewers from the national Egyptian TV, and I dedicated like episodes for the African civilizations. And I was trying to deliver a message, sometimes like in hidden and sometimes very obvious. Egyptian civilization and Egyptians, they are Africans.
Mm-hmm.
That was very shocking for the interviewers. Are we really African? That was on air, recorded in the Egyptian national TV. Are we really Africans? I was almost laughing in the studio, because almost everything in Egypt now or in modern history is not promoting for Egypt as an African.
Right. Right.
So they are promoting Egypt. If you will ask an Egyptian today, so who is Egyptian, Arab, Middle Eastern, but African? No, that normally will not come to his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So because of education, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
because of most of the rulers and the ruling class, they don't understand their African heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Because of there is lots of immigration happens, and that's mostly focused in the north part of Egypt, and it happens that unfortunately the elites mainly comes from this north part.
Yes.
And the southern part, which is not being well developed, that's where the people they feel more of their African roots.
Sure.
And because of media as well, so I grew up watching like lots of movies, that's like when you are a kid in Egypt back in that time, that's normally how,
Mm-hmm.
especially being raised by a very conservative family, they don't let you to go out. So
okay.
that's how
Everything was inside. Yeah.
about the movies. So the only time when you see black people in movies, in Egyptian classical movies, drama, is like a servants.
Yeah.
It's like drivers.
Sure.
That was their main rule. And that's why, unfortunately, the word Africa, for many Egyptians, they might consider humiliation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
The word Africa, for many of the Egyptians, they will remind them with famine and instability, poverty, very much like the Western mind.
Right.
Because it was mainly colony, which is shaped the curriculum, which is still taught not only in Egypt, in many of the African countries.
Yes.
I think the colony, in purpose, they made this kind of foggy, or they made this kind of distortion of the ancient African civilization and heritage, so they can have an access to Africa. Think about 54 countries in Africa. 52 of them has been colonized.
Yes.
Only two countries not being colonized.
Yeah.
Ethiopia and Liberia, as far as I remember.
Yes.
So you need to ask yourself the reason why. Because treasures and resources, and among these treasures is the man itself. So think about from a colony point of view of this man, a human being, I mean that man or woman in Africa. So if they realize that how important he is, how important their history and the time that we're leading the world back on that time, and the resources they have, and the power physically and mentally they have, they will have dreams. And they don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the word distorting, they distracted the Egyptian or the Egyptian people, stripping them away completely from their African heritage. So my message, my education, my tours, my lectures, my virtual tours after the COVID, I started actually offering virtual tours, is mainly focused on that. Trying to clear, not only in Egypt and Sudan and Nubia, trying to clear that out so people they understand how valuable it is to be an African.
Sure. So you mentioned that you have been doing okay business-wise in COVID. So have you seen a rise in domestic tours now?
Yes, there is slightly, actually. There's like in my emails now, have more requests, and it's still not to the standard,
Sure.
to make things going well, but things is still going. But I found actually a tool, because I think that I still have to keep promoting for the idea. And that's why
and engaging.
the virtual tour became a good idea.
Oh,
There is
wonderful.
people locked at homes and they cannot go out. I try to put them together. I told you, I don't have a good experience in marketing, and I'm
Yeah.
looking for, if you can recommend somebody, I will be very happy. Hearing us today, and we have the skill and they have the passion. The most important, the passion for me in my teamwork is more important than the skill. So they have the passion and the skills to help in promoting for our experience in Egypt and Sudan. You are most welcome. So I'm doing that based on the contacts, which is a tour. We normally, like in the last 2 years, every year we toured nearly 1,000 people, more or less.
Okay. Yeah.
So those are the people which is I'm trying to promote the virtual tour. But I think that if it's promoted well, it will help not only in the short term, even after the COVID,
Yeah.
because the sickness and because of also physical conditions sometimes
Yes.
and financial
Right.
problems, or financial reasons. People, they cannot book like a flight to go all the way to Egypt,
Yeah.
and in the future I'm trying to put more like a group tours, because
Yeah.
most of the tours so far was like individuals, but now
Sure.
I'm more into groups, small groups. I don't like groups more than 12 people, so I can the personal communication stay well.
Mhm.
And with having a groups of 12 to 15 people at maximum, that makes able to deliver the message and able to drop the price too,
Right.
because the van, the bus, the guide, whatever, that will be divided between.
Yeah. And it becomes like a classroom. So it's kind of an interesting.
And some of my tours, I organize lectures in the afternoon, evening. It is not. There is normally for every version of the tour I have, there is two versions. I call it the full soft version and the in-depth version.
Sure.
So the in-depth version is those which is for those who would like to come to the class in the evening to discuss like more in-depth history.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So obviously everyone's kind of changing the way they're operating and figuring out new ways to be in this pandemic space. So now I want to move into my mindset hack question. And this is a question I ask all of my guests. What is your favorite or an innovative mindset hack? So this is something that you can imagine or something that you know of. And so it's really thinking about how you have set your mind in a way that is beneficial, positive, maybe a ritual or something that helps you to persevere.
Thank you for this question, because I think that is the only weapon for any human being, which is nobody can take away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in God, and I believe in God is for everybody and for all of the mankind. And I believe that there is always a hope. And even in the darkest situation, I prefer to look at the positive things, not a way of ignoring all of the negative things around. I like to realize how much disadvantage I have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I like to classify them into disadvantages. I can turn them into opportunities, or disadvantages is difficult to turn them into opportunities. So I should keep it aside now, not even think about it. So together with disadvantages, can be turned into opportunities, I focus also on the advantages I have and the dreams. There is an interesting thing that I recruited like one, which is he's the head of my operation now, just before the COVID starts. And luckily, and also because of the hard work, I kept most of my admin team through the COVID. And I think because that was a message, I was already making money in the last 2 years. It doesn't make sense just to walk away from them once problems happens. And I was paying them. I was also putting them in a new program to develop things, not only for just paying them and sitting and doing nothing. Mm-hmm. So it became my responsibility. So I don't have a team. I have a family working with me. Mm-hmm. And he told me that because he used to work with different travel companies before working with me. And he told me that working with real Egypt and real Sudan, it was a completely different experience for him. Because when the COVID starts, he thought that I will, at least if I'm very generous, I will give him half salary and ask him to stay at home. Mm-hmm. But that's what happened. He said that every time I talked with my colleagues who works with the other companies I used to work, and they are big companies, and when I cut the call short with them because I'm busy having work to do, they make fun of me.
Yeah.
So what I did is I believe that there is a hope. I believe that we'll come out from this situation sooner or later. Yeah. And I start dealing as if I see already the end of this road, and I see the result in front of me. why? And I start putting up plans and programs and determinations and daily schedules and daily meetings with my team in order to reach this goal.
Mm-hmm.
After, from March until now, how many months? Now, like 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
we start yielding, we start harvesting. Now, we start receiving requests and people touring with us, and we start operating few tours already. And in the time that where nobody else will still have. So we have advantage now, because in the time that's when people kicked their employees and they stopped paying them, they haven't focused on developing their business. That was a very valuable time. The COVID, you cannot imagine how valuable it is, because
Yeah.
I managed to pull my business apart and have it reconstructed by finding the mistakes, the setbacks, and finding solutions, and not only and going back to my study again. So I
Right.
find out to do that, and that's one of the very important things, which is I was worried on myself that my mind was gradually shifted into business. That's also another thing, which is a positive thing of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. That's a great. So focused on advantages and disadvantages in order to come up with a whole plan. Yeah, that's a great one. Wonderful. Wow. Well, Samir, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate the depth. And, at some point I would love to just get all into the history, because that's something that I really enjoy. And I probably will reach out to you, because my other life is creating content or my only life, not my New York life, but my Ghana life is creating content, educational and informational content, particularly focused on Africans and diaspora and children. And so I read that you're working on a children's book or children's content. So I'd love to connect with you and really start working and fleshing out some of those tools, because I think that most people above the age of, 15, 16, 17, their mindset is what it is based on their environment about Africa. But children now have an opportunity to learn a new self, to really, and not to say that, you discovered your Africanness in your 20s, but really focusing on children, from 4, 5, 6 and above is really something that I am committed to and want to do to the highest order.
That's one of my recipes, actually. Thanks actually for mentioning that, because if I will put a recipe for solutions to improve Africa, because in Africa we have almost everything we need.
Yes.
One of the very interesting facts about Africa, that in the peaks of the African civilization, there is no hardly, or better to be more specific, hardly African country, they have an interest or agreed to take over another country in outside of Africa, and like what happens to Africa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even in the time that's when they can do it, for sure, and they can do it, they were not interested at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have a lot. And the size of Africa, which is much bigger than the world map to the east.
Exactly.
The most important treasure of Africa, I'm not talking about resources, but I'm talking about the human being itself. The average age of the medium age of the African person is 19.7.
Yeah.
You cannot imagine how much you can do with that. Exactly. Like what I think that I travel extensively in Europe, and I liked like more than 17 countries. I've seen how European Union make a difference.
Yes.
Between the countries which became part of European Union and the countries which is still not outside of European Union. Mm-hmm. Not only, I'm not talking about the economy, I'm talking about people mindset.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I hope for a similar experience for Africa. That will make a difference.
Yes.
That will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I hope that for one language to be a common language among the African country, not taking the character of every country. So as a second language, I hope that the African countries agree that on a second language to be taught for the kids in the school as a second language, because it will be very, very important. I hope that like now in Spain, I can hold my phone and I can call somebody in France and Holland and any place with no extra cost. I can drive my car, I can cross the border, and here and there, nobody will stop and questioning actually me, where I'm going and what I'm doing. And so I hope that happens in Africa as well.
Yeah.
You cannot imagine how difficult, for example, for an Egyptian to go to Sudan.
Yes, I know.
It's extremely complicated.
Yes. Even it's so difficult to go from West Africa to North Africa to go, like, oftentimes you have to go all the way to Europe to come back at the least cost. So yes.
It doesn't make, if really. And on the top of that, to create this environment, I know that that's more like a dream. And like I'm kind of I don't like to put like a sky as a limit, I don't like to make a limit for my dreams, but I think that freedom of speech and the freedom of choosing the choices, the leaders in Africa, that will create the dynamics to improve things around. Without that, it is difficult. That's
I mean, these are our complications because a lot of this is still the vestiges of colonialism, obviously. I mean, we don't run a lot of our own governance, even though we think we do. And democracy is maybe not what we need. We actually probably do need a lot more social supports, and that's not really supported by our relationships with the colonizers. So I mean, we could have many conversations, and I hope to do so, actually. So as we sign off, are there any last words that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'm very proud to be like one of your guests today. I'm very proud and very happy to deliver these messages and to fulfill my passion about Africa in your podcast today, which is not happens when I talk about any other subject.
Yes.
With the same passion. And I would like to offer, like, for any time your audience would like to discuss a history of Africa from African perspective, be very happy to do that free for you and your guests.
Wonderful. We're going to take you up on that for sure. And we can find you. You have a YouTube channel, tell us your YouTube channel.
I called my YouTube channel History Reveals.
History Reveals, which is a great YouTube channel. You can also find out more. You have a website.
Yes, realegypt.com, and personal website too, which is samirabbass.com.
Right. So all of that will be in the show notes again. And again, we have really rich show notes, guys. Like, what I'm going to do is hopefully either do a point to your website on the tour that you described, or I will have points that you described in the show notes, because all of that sounds so intriguing. And if you're planning a trip to Egypt, this is your tour company. Like, please, Egypt, Sudan, or Ethiopia. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Ethiopia, so we're definitely going to have you back. Don't worry.
Wonderful country. Wonderful country. Yeah.
Yes, and particularly as you mentioned, it's never been colonized, so that's a whole different kind of story and context. So, thank you so much, Samir. I really appreciate it. Okay, so that's all for this episode, Glocal Citizens. Thanks again for joining us. As always, you can catch us at www.glocalcitizenspod.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. I always say it. So please subscribe, share, comment, and until next time, bye for now.